Pastor Jordan Asbury. And Jordan, tonight we're going to be talking about our friendships and how those can be good or bad. Just because someone is nice to us, cares about us even, doesn't necessarily mean they're good for us. There's a lot of men who have allowed people in their lives, men and women both, that have destroyed their lives. A lot of men who have had affairs with women in the workplace because the woman cared about the guy and wants to help him, but the guy's married. And that woman caring about you isn't going to make your life better when you start connecting with her in ways you should not. Same with men. I mean, you can connect with men in ways that are unhealthy, and the man is basically encouraging you as a friend to do things you know you should not, that are not helpful to your relationship with your spouse or for your children, especially for God. And so we need to get out of this idea that all friends are good friends. And I'm not sure if any men, thought that, but if they have, it's definitely not true.
Right, and I remember in high school thinking, well, I have a good time with these guys. They must be my friends. And then here I am at 20, almost 25, and I don't talk to a single one of them ever. And they don't message me and say, hey, how you doing? Do you need anything? Never. So, I've had some difficult times, the last couple of years, and they never reached out, never heard from them. So it's in the good times that you see them, but when the bad times come, they slowly fade.
So we had talked the last time together, I had talked with Pastor Ethan about the purpose of friendship. And if you remember what I said, the purpose of friendship isn't about what they can do for us, but what we can do for them. And unfortunately, not many people think of friendship in that way. Not many guys are out there trying to befriend us to help us. And Jordan, it's sad to say, but we're often not much different. We're not trying to gain friends to help them to better their lives. We are looking to say, what can you do for me? And that's both immature and I would say unscriptural. I don't want to, reteach last week's session, but if you'd like to watch that, it's on our Facebook page, and you can go back and see the previous weeks about the purpose of friendship. But let's go ahead and start by talking about healthy friendships. We'll kind of wrap up today's lesson talking in depth about unhealthy friendships. So healthy friendships. Jordan, when you think of a healthy friendship, a friendship that is good for you, that is causing you to see success in your life, what are some things that you'd be looking for in that friendship?
It may sound cliche, but I look at how good of a friend that Christ is to us. He is faithful. He is there in the good and the bad times. He holds his end to the bond that you have. It's not that, when you mess up, he doesn't do his part. He always does his part. He's very faithful, that he's trustworthy, honest, someone who puts, and not in a selfish sense, but someone who would put others' needs before their own, I'd say would be a good friend. Someone, I would go further than that, someone that has probably their life together, I would say, is, someone who...
Hard to help someone else when your life's falling apart, huh?
Exactly. And, I think someone who has their priorities set is a good friend, because if they neglect their family, if they're not a good spouse or a good father, how they can they be a good friend, So I'm thinking of... I don't want to get too far. I'm thinking of just maybe those core things I probably look for in a friendship.
With those definitions, would it take more than one hand to count how many men have been that to you in your life?
No.
Less than 5?
Yeah, I would say that.
And here you are at 25,
mm-hmm.
and you're saying in your 25 years on this earth, you've had less than 5 men be that to you.
Yeah, I would say that.
I think that would probably be a common experience for most watching
mm-hmm.
tonight. That if we were to consider the men who are living for God with zeal and love and putting the needs of others first and have their life in enough order where they can actually be a help to someone else, I would agree with you, Jordan. I probably haven't had more than 5 in my own life be that to me.
Yeah, and I think at those times, I think people, including myself, get almost desperate for a good relationship, that you would even seek out poor relationships
just to have something to fill the void, because there was a void there.
Exactly. And so I don't recommend that. I don't think anybody would recommend that. I think of the proverb that says, he that shows himself friendly hath many friends. So if you don't have many friends, just show yourself faithful and friendly to others, and along the path someone will come around.
Well, you're right. I mean, you can be nice to people and have all kinds of people be your friend, but then it goes back to, will they be the friend you actually need and
Right.
is good for you. You're
Right.
talking about Proverbs 18:24. A man that hath friends must show himself friendly.
Right.
But then it also goes on to say, there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother.
Right.
Not just someone who'll be nice to you,
Right.
but someone that will be there for you when you need them most.
Right.
When I look at a healthy friendship, there's really 5 main things that I see. And the first one is trust. It's hard to have a healthy friendship if you're constantly doubting their motives, the conversations they're having with you, the advice they're giving you, the direction they're encouraging you to go. Can you trust that their advice is given with the intent to help you, or is it given to get something in return? Can you trust that their advice given to you is based off of experiences in their life in which they made right choices and can advise you to make the same right choices? Or is there a broken trust because they've lied to you, because they've let you down when you needed them most, they were not there? And unfortunately, Jordan, I think men are really good at breaking trust. It's human nature, right? It's natural. It's easy to break trust. It's easy to lose the trust of our spouse. You got to work hard to gain the trust. It comes natural because we're sinful creatures to break the trust. You got to work to gain the trust of your children once they're old enough to actually, think on their own and consider the choices their parents are making. It's easy to lose the trust of your teenage adult children.
It's true.
And it's the same with men, Jordan. It is hard for, let me say this. People don't have to work hard for me to love them, because that's something God commands me to do, and I will love them. But they got to work hard to gain my trust. I don't just give my trust away freely, because I have been burnt too many times in the past when I gave it freely. You got to work hard for it.
Right. And in those situations, I'm sure you're not quick to give trust because other people are affected by people that you trust. You entrust
It's
certain
true.
things
If
to
I trust the
people.
wrong person, it'll affect my marriage, it'll affect my children, it'll affect this church as a pastor.
Right.
It's a bigger picture than just me.
Right. And I think this goes with men and women, but we're talking about men tonight. So men, I think it's almost like you get to a place in your relationship where, I could probably do this one thing, and it might make them break their trust, but he'll forgive me. We'll move on. And yeah, we should forgive one another, but I don't think we should just be so lax about trust. We shouldn't play with that, because that's the one thing that probably holds the relationship together is trust. There's a bond, and how can you do anything without trust? How can you have a relationship without trust?
I'm not sure. You might be right, Jordan. In my experience, I haven't really seen a whole lot of men process this idea that my choices will either increase or decrease the trust someone has for me. I honestly think we're back in the book of Judges, where every man just does what's right in their own eyes.
Right.
That's
Right.
what I'm seeing
Right.
in church, out of church,
Right.
in the community, personal lives, business decisions, church decisions. It's not, when I do this thing or say this thing, will I lose or gain trust? It's what I want to do, so I'm going to do it. And my friends will either like me or hate me. I don't care. If they're my friends, they'll like me no matter what I do. And so that idea that my friends will like me no matter what, if they're truly my friends, isn't a friendship of what can I do to gain their trust. It's a friendship of, well, if they're not here for me, then I don't need them anyways.
Well, it's also you not being a friend to them.
That is very true. That's exactly what it is. And that's not a healthy friendship.
Right.
And that's the problem, Jordan. I think we got a lot of men who have bad friendships after bad friendships, and they don't see it that way. They just think that I can't have good friends. There's no such thing as a good friend. No, you've just been living a life with unhealthy friendships because you never had standards. There was no standards for a healthy friendship. They don't know what they're shooting for. There's no bar to reach. Well, why would I do that? No one can reach that bar. Well, there are people out there, especially if you tell them how important trust is to you and make them step up to the plate. But we had talked last week, Ethan and I, about friendships, and when you live a life where you are being the right friend to them, it includes mentoring them. And so essentially, we should be gaining friends for the purpose of helping them be better people so they can be better friends to us. Yeah, but mainly they can be better friends to other people. But where is that happening? I mean, how many men do you know that are saying, I want to be your friend, to not just help you be successful, but to help you be a better man, to help you be someone that is trustworthy? I mean, are there men running around like that?
No, but I would say that the friends that are under the 5 that we talked about earlier were probably those, majority of probably were the ones that say, I'll be your friend. I guess I look like somebody that needed a friend. I don't know. but and I'm grateful for them, because everyone I think needs, like, iron sharpens iron, a friend that sharpens one another.
Yeah.
Makes each other better, not just so I can have a better friend, but
Right.
so your wife can have a better husband, your children can have better father, and your friends can have better friends.
Yeah. And I want to clarify, when we talk about, it's a small circle in our lives of people who are truly our friends, I don't mean people who are friendly to us, that
No.
like us,
Yeah.
that we hang out with. I mean people who are literally investing themselves into us. As pastors, it's our job to invest in others, but unfortunately, in the life of a pastor and in the life of men, you don't find a lot of other guys who want to invest in you. They want you to invest in them. And I, in my own experience, just have not seen a slew of people who want to invest in others. They want to be invested in. And it's time that as men, we change that philosophy, that we change that idea that friendship is about what they can do for me, but it's about what I can do for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of the verses I have for, can I share verses? Okay.
Sure,
One of the
please.
verses I have, just as a general rule for relationships, is Galatians 5:14. It says, "For all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." And I think that when we love each other as we would want to be loved, or even go further and see how Christ loves us, you're going to be a good friend. When you stop focusing on yourself and your needs and this and that, when you focus, how can I minister to this man? How can I be a better, how can I help this man? Whatever it may be, that's loving them more than just as you love yourself.
Yeah, that was one of the purposes of friendship we went over last week.
Yeah.
It was to correct them, disciple them, mentor them, and love them.
Right.
So we've already covered that,
Yeah.
and you were totally right. If love is not in the friendship, then it's not really a healthy
Right.
friendship. This week, we're kind of adding on to the purposes, one of which is trust. I think of David and Jonathan in the Old Testament. And David actually says to Jonathan, at Jonathan's funeral, you might say. I mean, Jonathan, died in a violent way. But David laments his death and writes a song about Jonathan. And in that song, he says, "Jonathan, you were basically a better friend to me than my own wife."
Yeah.
Like, you, the way you treated me, the way you invested in me, you cared for me more than my wife. Now, that made me seem hard to believe, but if you consider David had more than one wife, the guy wasn't really maybe the best of husbands, which might have resulted in his wives not being the best of wives. David kind of created that scenario himself. But what it does show is that Jonathan and David were there for each other when they needed each other most.
Right.
Remember, Jonathan's dad wanted to kill David. And who was it that protected David
Jonathan.
from Saul? It was Jonathan. So Jonathan definitely earned David's trust. David knew he could trust Jonathan to keep him out of trouble because Jonathan had kept him out of trouble. He'd proven that.
Right. And I would say, too, that Jonathan probably wasn't looking at this. Of course, David was the king, but there was nothing for him necessarily. He just saw a friend in David and saw that his dad was treating him wrong, saw a need, and was trying to minister to that need.
Yeah, we're told that Jonathan actually wanted to befriend David after David killed Goliath, and Jonathan, a warrior, saw the warrior heart in David
Right.
and said, "I want to be that guy's
Right,
friend." There was
exactly.
a connection there immediately.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
see trust. Trust needs to be in a healthy friendship. If you don't got it, then it needs to start. And maybe it's just time to have a conversation with the men in your life and say, "Guys, look, you've broken my trust. I want to be a friend with you, but you got to gain that back." If you can't have that conversation with that guy, then I can tell you right now he's not a good friend for you, and maybe it's time to move on. The second thing that you should have in a healthy friendship is time. You can't have a friend if you're not willing to invest time in them. And that's where we go to Proverbs chapter 18, verse 24. If you want friends, you got to be friendly. You got to connect with them. You got to be around them. And I have always been able to easily separate those who like me from those who want to be my friend by those who want to spend time with me. I'm okay with people liking me and not needing to be my friend. Even as a pastor, I don't need every person in our church to be my friend. They don't have time. I don't have time to be friends with, hundreds of people in the school and the church. And it's not necessary. I'm completely content with them just showing me love, being nice to me, similar to them. But there are people who actually go further and say, "I want to invest in you." Now I say, I know now you want to be my friend. And that's, if you're wondering, how do I communicate that to other men? How do I cross that gap of just acquaintance to show them I actually want to be their friend? Look, they'll know you want to be their friend when you actually invest time in them. When you say, "Can we get coffee together? Can we have dinner together? Come on over. Do you like Scrabble? Do you like Risk? Do you play Catan? What is it? What do you like to do, right? Let's do these things. I'm going hunting. Do you want to join me? Let's go skeet shooting. As a men's group, we're going to go snowmobiling. I mean, there's things you can do to connect with men. If you're not doing those things, don't fool yourself. You just got a bunch of acquaintances in your life. Now, acquaintances aren't going to hurt you, but if you're looking for someone to really support you, you need a friend. And so you may need to start that process of start investing in others your time. because there's a hard line drawn there when you start investing time. Hey, we're not just hanging out, we're friends. I mean, there's, men, we don't need to sign a contract and write a note. I mean, just spend time. People will know.
Right. And I think that sometimes people want to be your friend without
the time.
Without the time.
I mean, what is it that they really want then? If they don't want to invest the time, but they want to be your friend, what are they looking for?
They probably want to say that they have friends.
I feel like it's like a Facebook friendship,
Yeah,
right? Or,
yeah.
Twitter or whatever.
Oh,
You got all
yeah.
these followers,
He's my
all these
best
friends.
friend. It's like, what's his wife's name?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Sandy.
So I think you're right, Jordan. We live in an age where people are content with shallow relationships. Social media has proven that a vast majority of society is okay with shallow friendships. And as men, if we want to be strong, iron sharpens iron. If we want to be forged and to forge, shallow relationships are like a wooden sword trying to be sharpened by iron. The iron's going to cut the wooden sword, not sharpen it.
Right, and iron does not sharpen iron from a distance.
That's a great point. That's a great point. And so it's time for men to recognize that friendships are necessary. We talked about this the last time we were together, how important friendships are, which means you got to start connecting. You have to invest time in people. You say, I don't need friends, someone else needs you. Find that person, invest time in them, and start mentoring and discipling them to become a better man themselves.
Right, and I've heard people say, "Well, I don't need friends. I don't need people." God did not create us to be an island. God did not create us to be that way.
And I agree, but even if you believe that, then at least understand someone else needs you,
Exactly,
and
yeah.
you invest in them.
You've obviously never had a friend if you don't
That's
think you need one.
probably likely. That's probably likely true. The next thing I see, Jordan, is mutual respect. In Proverbs chapter 27, and verse 14, we read kind of an interesting story here. In verse 14 about, it says, "Blessed he that blesseth his friend with a loud voice rising early in the morning, it shall be counted a curse to him." You went to college, Jordan. Did you have a roommate?
I had 4.
Did you have that roommate that got up early in the morning, turned on music really loud, did a workout program, turned on all the lights at 5:30 in the morning, 45 minutes before you got up? Did you have one of those roommates?
I occasionally I did. I more had the guy that kept hitting the snooze button.
Did he mysteriously disappear one night or something? He was no longer. What happened?
No, he was just like. He would set his alarm and it would go off and off
Over and over
off
again.
and off. He would be the one that wants to get up and blast music and work out and things like that.
You know what that shows to everyone else in the room? A lack of respect.
Right.
It says, I don't respect you. I don't respect your needs. All I care about is me. I know there's 3 other guys in this room. I had a room with 4, myself and 3 others as well. And I've had roommates in college. This was many years ago, but I had it where the guy only cared about himself. He did not respect the needs, the concerns, the issues of other guys. Pretty much everyone had to cater to that roommate. That's a lack of respect.
Yeah.
Guess what? I wasn't that guy's friend. I mean, I tried to be nice to him, but I was not his friend.
Yeah.
It's hard to be friends with someone who doesn't respect you.
Right. Something similar. We had guys that would just leave their clothes and dishes and trash
all
and
over the room, the bathroom.
all over.
Yeah.
And I like to keep things neat.
You know, it's
and clean,
interesting.
so-
If we have some women listening, they say, you know what? I married one of those men. And so they're thinking, some of these women thinking, yeah, my own husband doesn't respect me by the way he just leaves things
Right.
lying around in the house. He expects me to pick, he thinks I'm like his cleaning fairy or something like that.
Right.
And so men, your wife should be your best friend. And when you are not showing her respect, getting up, slamming the alarm every 10 minutes, loud noises, lights on, if you're not showing her respect, don't be shocked when she doesn't consider you as a friend and your marriage starts to deteriorate. Because a healthy friendship includes mutual respect. The way we talk to each other, the things we do around each other, the things we don't do because it might annoy them. Mutual respect leads to healthy, strong friendships. And it is time for us to recognize respect is a 2-way road. It's not enough for you to want them to treat you with respect. Treat them with respect and show them how it looks.
I think also having friends, when you see them do something for you that you thought, wow, that was something really small.
Yes.
It was something really special. It showed that they were really thinking about you. They were really thinking about what they were doing. It shows how you can be a better friend to other people as well.
Yeah.
And so I think mutual respect goes into learning from one another, too, of how to be a better friend so that you can be better friends to other people.
So I had said I probably had 5 or less men that have really invested in me. 2 of them were at a previous church. And, Jordan, they would take me out to eat, pay for my meal. They would do things for my wife and I and just blew me out of the water. You know what I find myself doing now at 37? Doing the same thing. I am now doing for others what these two men did for me. They showed me how it looked, exactly what you're saying. And they showed me, I mean, I was a young guy. I was in my mid-20s, and they showed me respect by the way they treated me, even though I was, 5-10 years younger than them. And I said, that's how it looks. And now in my mid to late 30s, I'm now trying to show other younger men, including yourself, what was shown to me.
Yeah, and you read in 1 Timothy 3 where it talks about a pastor should be hospitable, and really don't know what that looks like until you've experienced it.
Yeah.
A pastor who's truly hospitable, welcomes their home is your home, basically, and they treat you like royalty almost. And I've been in homes like that, and that has changed my way of being hospitable. I think my being hospitable would be limited had I not experienced that.
Yeah. So, mutual respect, guys. If you want to have solid friendships, then show respect and request respect. And let's start with our spouses. That's a great place to begin. Show our spouses and then take that into our friendships, in the church, in our working community. And then the fourth thing I look at, Jordan, is similar beliefs and goals. I'm going to clarify this one. I'm not saying it's impossible to have a healthy friendship if you have different beliefs and goals, but I'll tell you, it's going to be a lot harder. It is very hard to have a healthy friendships if you guys are on opposite sides of the aisle when it comes to God, truth, even politics. Again, you can do, these things can be done. It's just a lot harder. And the more important the truth, the harder it is to be friends when you disagree on that truth. I mean, it's one thing to disagree on a teammate, or a team, the best team, or the best state to live in, or the best type of car. These are minor issues. When you start talking about, does God exist? Is the Bible true? Is there a heaven and hell? And when you disagree on these things, it's going to be really hard to be friends in a healthy way. In fact, in the book of Amos, it's an Old Testament prophet, chapter 3 and verse 3, the Bible gives us a verse from God speaking to the Jews, the nation of the Jews. And he says to them, can two walk together except they be agreed? Now, God is talking in relation from himself to the Jews. And he says, guys, how can you, as the nation of Israel, walk with me if you don't agree with me? God says, I'm over here on truth. God is the way, the truth, and the life. And you're over there living lies and deception. God says, as much as I want, we can't be friends because we don't agree on the basic truths of life and the afterlife. If that's true for God and Israel, it's much more true for us as humans who are fallible humans.
Right.
We need to have a common, at least foundation of where we're headed in this life. I'm heading towards God, and it's not that I don't love people who are heading away from God, but I do find myself, my best friends, my closest friends, the people that I invest in, the ones I want to be invested in by, are going to be the ones heading to God. Those are going to be the healthy friendships in my life. The ones who are heading away from God, acquaintances, I love them. I'll invest to a degree in them, but they're not going to be close friends. We're going different ways.
Yeah, I think this one probably speaks louder than the other three, because I've often experienced that I have friends that I may disagree ministry-wise or biblically-wise. You spend less time sharpening each other and having a good time.
You spend more time doing what?
Debating.
Arguing.
Yeah.
We call it debate. It's a polite way of saying arguing.
Yes. Yeah, throwing down.
And even pastors do that, Jordan. It's not just, Christians in general. Pastors are tearing down pastors because their circle doesn't include people who at least are heading down the same direction. That doesn't mean surround yourself and your life with yes men. You don't need a bunch of people approving everything you do. You need to be on the same page of what is ultimate truth for there to really be a healthy friendship.
Right. I agree.
All right, the last one we're going to look at today for healthy friendships is God. God needs to be the center of all relationships. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 31, everything we should do, we do for what?
The glory of God.
The glory of God. Our marriages, our children, our workplace, everything we do. Verse 31, eating, drinking, whatever you do all to the glory of God. That includes friendships. So going back to what we said the other week, the purpose of friendship to correct, push someone towards Christ, to lift up, to love them. If we are not keeping God the center of our friendships, don't be shocked when that friendship takes you further from God rather than closer to the God that should have been the center to begin with.
Right. You look back to the garden, the relationship between Adam and Eve was destroyed. Then, between Cain and Abel, It was destroyed between God and man was destroyed.
Mm.
Why? I mean, why did God die in the first place? It was because it was to mend a relationship. And so you look at God being the closest friend we could ever have. He is the closest friend we will ever have. And you see how far he went to mend the relationship. And I think when we look at how much a relationship meant to him, it makes us reevaluate our own relationships. Does my relationship with my friends and my wife and my children really mean as much as I think they do or say they do?
Men, it's hard to make God the center of your friendship when he's not already the center of your life. If he's not the center of your life and you want him to be, find a man whose God is the center of his life and become his friend. And let him encourage and disciple you so that can happen for you so that you can do that for someone else. Most importantly, your wife and your kids. Mm-hmm. Now, we have just enough time to quickly go over what an unhealthy friendship looks like. And Jordan, I think a lot of men are going to say, yep, I have one or more of those in the friendships that I have. The first one is just constant arguing. Boy, especially in today's political realm, Jordan, so many men just spend time around the water cooler, on social media, at church, and what are they doing? Arguing about the presidential race, arguing about the presidential results, arguing about the Senate, arguing about the House, arguing about anything politics, state or federal. They're arguing. They're arguing about philosophies, church and otherwise. They're arguing about teams. I mean, it's not even, healthy, fun, razzing about a team. It's literally arguing. And how can that person be your friend when there's more arguing than actual healthy conversation? They can't be. They're not your friend.
Yeah. It just goes to show what's really more important to you. Your relationship is really not that important. It's really politics.
It's wanting to be right.
Yeah.
It's also, you go back to what we said earlier, they're not a healthy friend if you don't agree on basic foundational truths. And so you put your place in a position of being surrounded by people who disagree with you, so all you can do is argue when you're with them rather than be encouraged by them.
Right.
So this is almost a consequence of not purposefully choosing healthy friends. Well, then you will have the consequence of an unhealthy friend. It will be arguing because you're not agreed with each other.
I agree. Right.
I see the second unhealthy part of a friendship is just unchecked sin. When you're around them, they're swearing, using God's name in vain. They're gossiping. Yeah, men gossip, about their wives and their kids and telling all the bad stories about everything that's been happening in their life and all the people in their life. And men are just they're not courageous enough to stand up and say, hey, we're not going to talk about this. They're not going to steer away the conversation. They don't bring up a healthier topic. They just sit there and take it. They sit there and listen to it. Men talking inappropriately about women. Married men talking inappropriately about women they work with. This is just a common thing. Unchecked sin in our conversations and in our lives is going to lead to an unhealthy friendship and will be the consequence of the unhealthy friendship.
Right, and you're not really sharpening each other if you're not correcting one another.
No, you're enabling them.
Right.
And then the final one, and we're done, unkindness. I don't want to sound juvenile here, like you telling a little kid at school going to fifth grade, be kind to your friends, right? We tell our kids that, and yes, as adults, we can't even illustrate what that would look like to our kids. We're not kind to our spouse. Again, our wives should be our best friends. We're not kind to them in the way we talk to them, in the way we treat them, the things we do and don't do to them. We don't show kindness. We don't show kindness to our friends. They come over, and we somehow think that by making fun of them in front of their kids is a good way to have fun. You're not showing kindness to the guy when you're belittling him in front of his family. You're not showing kindness to him when he needs you and you say, I can't be there for you. Men are just really good at being hostile to other men. We're good at what we think is showing strength by saying, I don't need you, and if you're a man, you don't need me. If we have time to get together, great, but if not, that's just how life is. No, it's being unkind. You're not showing love. It's the opposite of love.
I think I might battle that one more than maybe the other two. I think sometimes I try and joke with friends, and I take it too far. I think it's hilarious. Gets to the point where they don't think it's hilarious, and I don't care. I think it's funny. That is not kind. That's not loving. That's not being considerate of someone else's feelings, and men do have feelings, and I've tried to think more about what I'm saying and how that person might take it. I'm not a master of that at all, but I think that's one way you could be unkind. It's not that you don't want them to be your friend and you don't care if they ever come back. It's not that at all. It could be just a temporal wanting some like relief of whatever being a comedian or whatever and oftentimes it's just pride. That's all it is.
Well, man, friendships can make or break you. You have no friends. The Bible, we read in the book of Ecclesiastes, if you don't have a friend to lift you up, you fall down, don't get back up. If a twofold, a threefold cord is not easily as broken as a single piece of twine. And so we may think that we are islands to ourselves. We may think that we can take on life by ourselves. God's word does not agree. God's word encourages friendships. God's word speaks highly of friendships. But not all friendships are equal. It's time to recognize that there are biblical friendships, healthy friendships, and unhealthy, unbiblical friendships. Surround yourself with men who agree with you. God is a priority, who understand that we got to show respect to each other, who's someone you can trust, that wants to invest in you their time, and you return the favor. When we surround ourselves with men like that, Jordan, we will be sharpened by them. And I know we've said that now multiple times because it's true. We will be sharpened by them, and we will sharpen them. And you know who really benefits, Jordan? Our families. Mm-hmm. Our families benefit. The sharper I am as a man, the stronger I am as a man, the better off my wife is. The better off my kids are. Men who are falling, not getting back up, they say, well, what's the point? The point is the wife. The point is the kids. Men want to make everything about themselves, and if I don't want it, it doesn't matter. No, you got kids. You got a wife. You got a job. You got people relying on you. You need to support yourself. Find support with other men you can trust. And I hope that the men out here, we can become that to each other here at Meriden Hills Baptist Church. And if you're looking for a group like this, join us Sunday nights at 6 o'clock. And we're going to end here now and then have some discussions in a small group setting here at the end of our video while still continuing to make connections even outside of this through activities throughout the year. We'd love to have you join us. Next week, we are going to start a short series with men, and that is making hard decisions. Men are really good at making decisions, Jordan. They love making decisions. They don't necessarily like making the hard decisions. Oh, I'll put that off, or I'll choose the easy decision. You know, our wives are back there trusting us to do what's right and hoping we'll make the right decision, and men just want to ignore the difficult decisions and choose the easy one, and our wives just back there frustrated, shaking their heads, thinking, what is wrong with my husband? It's time for men to make the hard choices. We'll talk about that next Sunday night.
Awesome. Oh, I was going to say, I've been in situations where I need to make a hard decision. I'm like, I'm going to make this decision. I get to it. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't.
Well, then you come back next Sunday night. It'll be a help to you. Next week. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a great week. We'll see you next Sunday.